Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at X-Men Red Annual 1. This is from 2018. Written by Tom Taylor, art by Pascal Alex. Color artist was Chris Sotomayor. Letterer was VC's Corey Petit. But I don't know how to pronounce any of these names. The editors were Mark Panacea and Jordan D. White. Now this is, unlike traditional annuals, this is some sort of character development book where Jean Grey is kind of acclimating to being alive again or whatever for the 8 millionth time. So she says goodbye to the Phoenix like it's a pet of some kind. Like it looks like Lockheed. And we get a little recap that she died or whatever. She's unhappy. She says, I refuse to accept the world for how it is. I'm gonna change it. Yeah, that always works out. This is effectively a social justice chick tract. Now, if you know what a chick tract is, you'll get the reference. Chick tracts were little religious pamphlets put out by super fundamentalist Christians in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. They may even still be around, I don't know. They had very strong religious messages. This has that same type of feel. It's disguised as a comic book very cleverly. It's the same size as a comic book. It features sequential art, but the chick tracts tended to be small and have sequential art. Now this does tell some sort of story. I don't know what it is, but it tells a story. Now it's about this frumpy looking woman named Jean Grey who says goodbye to her Phoenix and then goes and sees her friends who are all super awkward and don't talk like normal people, and they have big group hugs, and then they all smile at each other for like 5 freaking pages, and then she talks to some old man who looks vaguely like a really gay Wolverine. There's like this 2-page thing where they're talking to each other that I don't care about because they're both figuring out that they're not the other person. And then some guy that looks vaguely like Nightcrawler, only slightly weird, teleports her to Central Park, to the Xavier Institute, where some kids are chased by a bird, and then some random brown bigot throws a hot dog at them. For some reason, Nightcrawler decides to eat it, which is gross. If somebody throws food at you, it's probably not good, because otherwise a hot dog in New York is like $5 or $6. What a waste of money. Why don't you just throw the $5 bill at him? Probably be as effective. And he eats it and says, tastes like mustard and bigotry. And I guess we're going with the oppressed mutants again. So there's a lot of grandstanding and moralizing as Jean lectures him and calls him a coward effectively for saying mean things on the internet. And then she's like, ignorance is never an excuse for hatred. Go home. Learn something. That sounds like a chick tract to me. There's a moral lesson in here about what a monster you are for being who you are. And this isn't going to backfire on her at all. I mean, that won't entrench this individual further. No, instead she gets in everybody's head, violates their mind with her mental powers, which, as I recall, goes against everything the X-Men originally stood for, but she effectively just tells them all to go about their business, and she continues this mental invasion throughout the book, looking in through other people's eyes and animals' eyes, and effectively she's a psychic rapist, going into people's minds without their permission and manipulating their feelings, emotions, seeing through their eyes, reading their memories and thoughts. And it's more than just a parlor trick. I find this incredibly offensive because she is not getting consent to go into their minds. She's just telling people what to think, which is why I think she turned Iceman gay, because she knows better, some kind of god complex. And then she talks to Rachel Summers, an alternate universe version of, I don't know if it's her kid or I think it's Madeline Pryor's, but what do I know? And Scott Summers. So they have a little chat, and then they go bother Girl Vereen and this kid Honey Badger, who talks unlike any child I've ever met in my life. Kid's name's Gabby, I guess. So Jean Grey does some party tricks by reading the girl's mind. And yeah, the kid owns a pet honey badger. Do you know how incredibly violent honey badgers are? There's no ordinance in the world gonna let you have that in city limits. No way. Nobody would let you own a honey badger. They are vicious. And they don't like people. And they don't give a crap. If you don't believe me, look it up. There's a whole video on it on the internets. that make the kids stay behind, because apparently they take this little girl out adventuring. The kid's like, what, 10, if that? And then they go out by the Statue of Liberty, where apparently the Inhumans are hanging out. And then Lockjaw teleports in with Black Bolt. They start a fight, I guess, but it's short-lived because nothing really happens. And then Jean Grey talks to him through some kid with a bunch of eyes. And then mentally, she just goes right into his mind and starts talking to him, forces him to talk with her that way. And she makes him apologize, and it's a full thing nonsense. And then she's in this god-awful costume where it looks like there's an X on their navels, and she talks to Scott's grave. And then we get a glimpse of Rachel talking to a character that's been dead a dozen times, Cassandra Nova, I think her name is. Whatever, it was dumb. But the whole thing is basically just Jean Grey running around trying to tell everybody what to do, moralizing, and getting validation from her friends, and occasionally validating one of them, telling everybody else how they should live, and manipulating their minds. Pretty awful storytelling, especially for $5. It's a long-winded lecture from some nanny that wants to tell you how to live. It's not a story. First of all, she's a mind rapist, in my opinion. She just goes around probing people against their will, reading through their minds and making them do things. She took all this guy's secrets and threatened to blackmail him if he didn't stand down, because she says he's ignorant and doesn't like what he believes. You know, that's fine. You don't have to like everybody in the world. Okay, maybe the guy's a bigot. He's got a right to be a bigot. I'm sorry. Still do. And you're in New York City, not Eastern Iraq. And it's not much longer than a regular comic. It's just, there's a lot of big panels to kind of disguise the fact that there's not much actually happening. Like, there's a couple of really big one-page spreads that didn't need to be one-page spreads. And the art is very undynamic. Like, there's a scene where she's like hunched over like she's about to charge somebody in football, like a defensive lineman. It's really weird, and the whole thing looked lazy and rushed. So I don't know if the artist was just working for the paycheck on this one, or if his art's always this bad. But it looked terrible. It looked like an indie book, a bad indie book. So yeah, this was a terrible book. I don't recommend it. I don't even recommend it picking it up to mock it. It was just an insulting waste of money. This is a lecture, not an entertainment piece. This is propaganda. This is something that any propagandist would just fawn over, because it's disguised as a comic book in a very good superficial way, but once you start reading it, you really get in and get the messaging, and it really is just a social justice chick tract, and I don't like that. I don't like that she's a mind rapist going around probing people's minds without their consent. And as soon as she meets like Old Man Logan, she's already in his mind probing him. She does that with everybody she runs into. You don't go around doing that to people, violating that. Do you pick up somebody's wallet when you first meet them and read their ID and go through their wallet and then do credit reports on everybody that you meet? No, it's impolite at best, and at worst it's a gross violation. The only thing I compare it to is mental rape. Yeah, I have a real problem with this book, and I'm not going to be picking up any more X-Men Red books while it's going in this direction. This is very unhealthy on a surface level, and further, it really goes against what the X-Men stood for, which was doing the right thing even when you're not accepted. She's not doing the right thing by probing the minds of other people against their will, without a reasonable cause. That's absolutely ridiculous, and it sets her up to be a villain, in my opinion. I don't know why she has to feel the need to go around telling everybody what to think and stealing their deep, dark secrets. That's just unprofessional and gross, and it's very rapey. So, Jean Grey, date rapist, is how I would phrase that. It was a waste of $5, and it was an insulting read. If I wanted to join a cult, I would have done it by now. But thanks for the offer, Marvel. I'm gonna pass on your weird social justice chick tract. So that's gonna do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel, and we hope to see you on the next one.